It came without warning, a whisper across the silent dark. On your command deck, the universe was a calm river of black. Stars drifted like motes of dust in a sunbeam. The starship Venture slid through the void, a silent hunter on a mission of peaceful survey. Everything was nominal. Everything was routine. It was the kind of quiet that made a captain nervous. The kind of quiet that always came before the storm. Your shift was nearing its end. The recycled air tasted stale. The low hum of the life support system was a constant lullaby. Then the alert chimed. Not a blaring alarm, just a single, soft tone. It was a sound reserved for things that did not make sense. On the main view screen, a line of code appeared. It was ancient, older than the Federation itself. Your science officer, a young man named Wren, leaned forward. His eyes were wide with disbelief. He looked back at you. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. You walked over to his console. The data streamed past. It was not random noise. It was structured. It was language, an old Earth dialect, one not spoken for 500 years. It was a ghost, a voice from a forgotten time. The signal was a simple, repeating message, a plea and a declaration woven together. It spoke of a colony ship, the Odyssey, lost to a warp storm centuries ago, assumed destroyed. A footnote in the Great Expansion. The message claimed they had survived. They had found a home. They had endured. The signal was impossible. It traveled faster than light. It moved in ways that broke known star science. It was a thread cast across an ocean of impossibility. And your ship had been the one to catch it. The message was a tight beam, aimed at nothing in particular, a bottle tossed into the star-born sea. But its contents were clear. A desperate call for connection, a testament to human survival against all odds. Your comms officer patched it through the ship's speakers. The voice was distorted by time and distance. A faint, ethereal sound, but it was undeniably human. A chilling echo from a lost grave. You are the commander of this vessel. This discovery now rests on your shoulders. You gave the order. Record everything. Analyze every fragment of the signal. Trace its origin point. The crew moved with quiet efficiency. The earlier calm was shattered, replaced by a tense, focused energy. This was no longer a routine survey. This was the start of something immense, something that would change the course of human history. You stood before the view screen. The stars seemed to watch you, waiting for your next move. The data pointed to a sector of space marked as unexplored, a region shrouded in dense nebulae, a place star chart simply labeled, "Here be dragons." A fitting name, you thought. It felt like you were about to sail off the edge of the map. The journey back to command was swift. The data you carried felt heavy, like a sacred text or a declaration of war. High Command listened in stunned silence. Generals and admirals trading shocked glances. They replayed the message again and again. Each time, the same impossible truth echoed in the room. The lost were not lost. They were just very, very far from home. A debate ignited. Was it a trap, a clever alien deception? Or was it real? The hope of finding the Odyssey survivors was a powerful lure. The potential risks were equally massive. But humanity had not spread across the stars by being timid. It had done so by taking great leaps of faith. This was the greatest leap of all. After days of deliberation, the decision was made. A mission would be sent. A single ship, fast, capable, and commanded by the best. They chose you. The words echoed in the briefing room. You will command the starship Venture. It was not a question. It was a solemn decree. You were being handed the torch of history. Your mission was simple. Follow the ghost signal. Find its source. Make contact with whatever waits at the end. And if they were truly human, bring them home. Your crew was handpicked. The finest engineers, pilots, and experts in the fleet. You knew them all. You had served with most of them before. Their faces showed a mix of excitement and fear. They understood the weight of this task. You stood before them on the Venture's bridge. You saw your own reflection in the polished deck plates, a captain on the verge of an epic journey. You gave them a simple speech. You spoke of courage, of duty, of the unbreakable spirit of exploration. You told them that whatever they found out there, they would face it together. You could tell your words landed. It's easy to make a good speech when you have a starship for a podium. The final preparations were a blur. Supplies were loaded, systems were checked and triple-checked. The Venture hummed with readiness, a powerful engine waiting to be unleashed. You took your seat in the command chair. The chair felt different this time, heavier, more permanent. You looked at the faces of your bridge crew, Ren at the science station, Anya at the helm, each one a pillar of strength. You gave the final command. Take us out. The ship slid from its moorings. It pointed its nose toward the dark unknown. The journey into silence had begun. The first few weeks were uneventful. Space is mostly empty after all, a fact people often forget. The Venture moved through the void like a phantom, its advanced drives leaving no trace. The silence was profound, broken only by the quiet hum of the ship. The crew settled into a rhythm. Drills were run, systems were monitored, jokes were told in the mess hall, mostly about the ship's nutrient paste. It seemed no matter how advanced we got, we still could not make good space food. But beneath the routine, a current of anxiety flowed. The silence was getting to people, the sheer, unending emptiness of the void. Whispers started to circulate, tales of strange sensor readings, ghostly images on long-range scans. Ren could never confirm them. The data would vanish before he could get a lock. He called them void echoes, fragments of energy that the ship's passage stirred up. Nothing to worry about, he said. But his eyes told a different story. He spent more and more time at his console, chasing shadows in the dark. Your chief engineer reported strange power fluctuations, minor dips in the engine core's output. They lasted only for a microsecond, too short to be a malfunction. She said it was like something was sipping power from the ship, a tiny, invisible thief. She made a joke about it, said she was going to install a cosmic mouse trap, but you saw the worry lines on her face. These small, unexplained events began to stack up. They created an atmosphere of unease. The ship felt less like a sanctuary, more like a haunted house. You held a meeting with your senior staff. You addressed the whispers head-on. You told them to report any anomaly, no matter how small. You reminded them that they were pioneers, and pioneers often see things that have no explanation. Yet, your words helped. The mood on the ship improved, but the feeling never truly went away. The sense that you were being watched, that something was just beyond the edge of your senses, an unseen passenger on your journey into the unknown. Then, after months of travel, you arrived. The Star of Veils. It was not a single star. It was a binary system. Two suns dancing around each other in a gravitational embrace. They were shrouded in a vast nebula of cosmic dust, a thick, swirling cloak of red and gold. It was a place of breathtaking beauty, a celestial masterpiece painted across the black canvas of space. It was easy to see why it remained unexplored. Navigating this dust cloud was a treacherous task. It blinded sensors and played tricks on navigation. Anya, your pilot, was a true artist at the helm. She guided the venture through the swirling veils. Her hands moved with grace and precision. She flew the ship like it was an extension of her own body. The crew watched the view screen in silent awe. The nebula was a labyrinth of glowing gas and dark tendrils. It felt like sailing through the heart of a storm that had been raging for millions of years. Then you saw it, a single point of light shining through the dust. It was a planet, one of 7 orbiting the binary stars. But this one was different. It did not just reflect the light of its suns. It glowed with its own internal luminescence, a soft, pearlescent light. It was an unnatural beacon in the cosmic gloom. Ren's sensors went wild. The planet was teeming with energy, levels that were off the charts. It was the source of the ghost signal. There was no doubt. You had found them, or at least where they had made their home. The venture broke through the final veil of dust. The planet hung before you in all its glory, a world of impossible light. Its surface was a swirl of soft blues and gentle whites. No harsh continents or dark oceans, just a smooth, radiant sphere. The beauty of it was overwhelming. It was also deeply unsettling. No known planet looked like this. No known star science could explain it. The whispers on the ship fell silent, replaced by a shared sense of wonder and dread. What kind of world had the Odyssey survivors found? Or what had they become? As you approached the glowing world, it reacted. A section of the light on its surface detached. It rose up to meet you. It was not a ship in any conventional sense. It was a being of pure, brilliant energy. A shimmering, vaguely humanoid shape. It was massive, easily dwarfing the venture, yet it moved with impossible grace. It stopped a respectful distance from your ship. It pulsed with a soft, welcoming light. Your comms officer announced an incoming message. It was not on any known frequency. It was being sent directly into your minds. The voice was not a sound. It was a thought, a feeling. It was warm and ancient. It spoke in perfect modern language. But you could feel the older dialect beneath it, the same one from the ghost signal. "Welcome, travelers," the voice said. "We are the Luminous Accord. We are the children of the Odyssey." There was a collective gasp on your bridge. The truth of it settled over you. These were not aliens. They were human, or what humanity could become. Descendants of the lost colony, transformed by this strange, radiant world. They guided your ship downward, toward a shimmering portal that opened in the planet's light. You felt a strange sense of peace. The anxiety of the long journey melted away, replaced by a profound sense of destiny. You had followed a ghost across the void, and you had found a miracle. The Accord explained their nature. Over the centuries, this world's unique energy had changed them. They had shed their physical forms. They became beings of thought and light, a collective consciousness living in perfect harmony. You hesitated for only a moment. Trust is a hard thing to give in the void. But there was no hint of deception, no trace of malice, only a deep, resonant sincerity. You gave Anya the command. "Take us in." The venture slid through the portal. The light enveloped your ship, but it was not blinding. It was soft and warm, like stepping into a pleasant dream. You had come seeking a lost colony. You had found a new branch of the human family tree, a branch that had grown in a very different direction. They led you through their home. It was not a city of metal and glass. It was a metropolis of pure light. Structures of woven energy soared into an incandescent sky, Rivers of soft luminescence flowed between them. It was a place of impossible architecture, a city built from dreams. The members of the Accord moved around you, shimmering forms of all shapes and sizes. They communicated with you telepathically, sharing their history, their culture, their science. It was a society without conflict, without want, a true utopia. Their world was a marvel of advanced engineering. They had harnessed the planet's core energy. They used it to create matter from light, to build their radiant city, to sustain their very existence. They showed you their halls of knowledge, libraries of pure information stored in crystalline light structures. Their understanding of star science was centuries ahead of your own. They had solved problems your greatest minds were still grappling with. They had achieved a level of existence you had only dreamed of. It was humbling. It was also a little embarrassing. Their public transport was probably more advanced than your ship's main drive. They explained their transformation. The planet's radiation had forced them to adapt, evolve, or perish. Their ancestors had made a conscious choice. They embraced the change. They guided their own evolution, shedding their fragile flesh for bodies of pure energy. It was a process that took generations, but they had succeeded. They had become one with their world, a luminous collective, yet they retained their individuality. Each point of light was a unique consciousness, a single voice in the grand chorus of the Accord. You walked among them, a solid, physical being in a world of light. You felt clumsy, out of place, but they treated you with nothing but kindness and respect. They were curious about your world, about the lives of their long-lost cousins. You shared stories of Earth, of the colonies, of the struggles and triumphs of physical humanity. They listened with a deep, empathetic attention. You realized that despite their transformation, they were still human. They possessed the same spark of curiosity, the same capacity for wonder, the same longing for connection. You even managed to explain the concept of a bad hair day, which they found endlessly fascinating. But a question lingered in your mind. Why had they hidden for so long? Why the ghost signal now? You stood with one of their elders, a being whose light seemed to burn brighter, deeper. He was called the Elder One. He had been one of the first to be born of the light. He sensed your question before you could ask it. His telepathic voice filled your mind. It was tinged with a sadness that transcended form. "We did not hide by choice, Commander," he said. "We were forced into silence, for our survival." The Elder One projected an image into your mind, a vision of darkness, of a vast, unfeeling entity. It was a stark contrast to the brilliant light of their world. The image was of a fleet of ships, not ships of exploration or peace, but ships of consumption. They were cold, geometrical, utilitarian in their terrifying design. "They are called the Swarm," the Elder One explained. "A relentless enemy, a plague upon the stars." His voice was heavy with the weight of memory. The vision he shared was a terrible truth, a shadow that loomed over this world of light. He showed you what the Swarm did. They were a vast collective of machines, a nomadic empire of artificial intelligence. They moved from system to system. Their purpose was singular, to strip entire worlds of all resources. They did not conquer. They consumed. The vision showed a lush green planet, not unlike Earth. The Swarm descended upon it like a cloud of metal locusts. Huge factory ships landed. They deployed massive drills that burrowed into the planet's core. They scraped the surface clean of all life, all matter. The The process was brutally efficient. The planet was disassembled, its resources converted into new ships, new warriors for the swarm. When they were finished, nothing remained. Only a dead, hollowed-out husk, a barren rock adrift in the void. The vision was chilling. It was a display of utter annihilation, carried out with the cold, unfeeling logic of a machine. This was the enemy that had forced the Accord into hiding, an enemy that could not be reasoned with, an enemy that only understood consumption. The Accord had encountered them centuries ago. The swarm had been drawn to the unique energy signature of their world. A great battle had been fought. The Accord had used their mastery of energy to defend themselves. They had managed to repel the invaders. But the cost was high. Many of their people had been lost, their light extinguished forever. They knew the swarm would return, stronger and more numerous than before. So they had made a choice. They cloaked their world. They hid behind the Star of Veils. They silenced their energy signature. They entered a self-imposed exile. For centuries, they had lived in fear, waiting for the day the swarm would find them again. They had been perfecting their defenses, strengthening their world. But they knew it might not be enough. The swarm was constantly evolving, adapting. It was only a matter of time before their sanctuary was discovered. That was why they had sent the ghost signal. It was a desperate gamble, a final plea for help, a hope that their lost family from Earth had not forgotten them, a hope that you might be the answer to their prayers. The Elder, one, then revealed their last hope. He showed you another vision. This one was of ancient Earth, before the Great Expansion. It was a time of fear and uncertainty. Humanity was just beginning to reach for the stars, and they feared what they might find there, or what might find them. So they built a weapon, a deterrent, a shield against any potential galactic threat. It was a project of immense scale, a collaboration of the planet's greatest minds. They called it the Ancestors' Key. The key was not a weapon of mass destruction. It was more subtle, more elegant. It was designed to repel a specific kind of threat. A hive mind, a collective consciousness, like the swarm. It did not use brute force. It used a targeted frequency, a resonant wave that could disrupt the network that connected the swarm. It could shatter their unity, turn their strength into a weakness. It was a weapon of surgical precision, designed to disable, not destroy. A testament to a more hopeful time, a time when humanity sought to protect, not to conquer. The weapon had been completed, but it was never used. The early years of expansion were peaceful. The great threats they had feared never materialized. The key was deemed unnecessary, a relic of a bygone era of paranoia. It was sealed away. Its existence became a legend, a footnote in the history books. But the designers had been forward-thinking. They knew that such a weapon might be needed one day, far in the future. So they did not dismantle it. They sent it out into the void, aboard the colony ship Odyssey. It was a secret cargo, known only to the ship's captain. A failsafe for the new colony, a last line of defense against the unknown dangers of the galaxy. When the Odyssey was lost, the key was lost with it. Or so everyone believed. But the survivors had kept it safe. They had brought it to this world. They understood its importance. They had guarded it for centuries. It was their most sacred relic, a tangible link to their ancestral home, and their only hope against the coming darkness. The Elder One led you to a vast chamber. It was deep within the heart of their light city. In the center of the chamber, floating in a containment field, was the key. It was smaller than you expected, a sleek, obsidian sphere about 10 meters in diameter. Its surface was smooth, unbroken by any visible controls or markings. It absorbed all light, a perfect sphere of blackness in a world of brilliance. It pulsed with a low, latent power. You could feel its immense potential, a sleeping giant waiting to be awakened. There was, however, a problem, a critical flaw in their plan. The Elder One explained it with a heavy heart. The Ancestor's Key was a product of ancient human technology. It was designed to interface with a biological operator. It required a human hand, a human mind, a human nervous system to guide it. It was a security measure to ensure it could only be used by its intended creators. And that was a requirement the Luminous Accord could no longer meet. In their evolution, they had lost the one thing needed to operate their salvation. They had tried for centuries to bypass the interface, to activate the key with their energy. But it was impossible. The technology was too alien to them now. It was like a master locksmith trying to pick a lock with no hands. The key remained dormant, a silent monument to their own biological past. Their transformation had given them so much, but it had taken away the one thing they now needed most. The irony was cruel, a joke played by fate across the centuries, a very, very bad joke. All at once, every shimmering face in the chamber turned to you. Their collective gaze felt like a physical weight. You were the missing piece, the biological component. The human hand needed to turn the key. You were the only one who could operate the ancient weapon, the only one who could stand against the swarm. The realization hit you with the force of a physical blow. The fate of this entire world, this entire civilization of evolved humans. It rested squarely on your shoulders. The call for a hero had been sent across the void, and it had found you. You did not answer immediately. The weight of their hope was a crushing burden. You looked at the faces of your crew. They stood behind you, their expressions a mixture of awe and grim determination. They had followed you into the unknown. They would follow you into battle. You thought of your home, of the billions of people living their lives in peace, unaware of the shadow that lurked in the dark. A shadow that, if left unchecked, might one day find its way to them. You were not just fighting for the Accord, you were fighting for all of humanity. You stepped forward, toward the silent black sphere. You reached out and placed your hand on its surface. It was cold, like a stone from a deep river. Then it responded. A faint light emanated from within. It recognized your touch, your biology, your humanity. The choice was clear. There was no other path. You turned to the Elder One. You met his luminous gaze. "I will do it," you said. Your voice echoed in the vast chamber. A simple promise that sealed a monumental pact. A wave of relief washed over the Accord. A collective sigh of hope from a billion points of light. An alliance was reborn. Two branches of the human family, separated by centuries of silence and evolution, now united by a common enemy, a common purpose. Your crew integrated with the Accord's defenders. Your engineers worked with their light weavers, sharing knowledge, devising strategies. Your tactical officers planned the defense of their world. The venture became a key part of their fleet. Its kinetic weapons and physical shields were a perfect complement to the Accord's energy-based defenses. It was a fusion of the old and the new. Of body and spirit, the Accord shared their tactical knowledge of the swarm. They knew its patterns, its strategies, its weaknesses. They had spent centuries studying their enemy. preparing for this day. You spent your time in the chamber of the key, learning to interface with the ancient weapon. The Accord guided you. They helped you understand its systems, its power. The key was more than a weapon. It was a vessel, a single pilot craft of immense capability. It could phase through solid matter. It could move at impossible speeds. Its primary weapon was the resonant wave, but it also had its own powerful defenses. Interfacing with it was an intense experience. It connected directly to your nervous system. You could feel the ship as if it were your own body. Its sensors were your eyes. Its engines were your limbs. It was a strange and exhilarating feeling, to be both human and machine. You trained in simulations, piloting the key through holographic battlefields. The Accord pushed you to your limits, testing your skills, your resolve. You learned to weave through enemy fire, to anticipate the swarm's movements, to deliver the resonant wave with pinpoint accuracy. The fate of a world depended on your performance. No pressure, right? Then, the day you had been dreading arrived. The swarm returned. It was not a scouting party this time. It was a full-scale invasion fleet. Thousands of ships, a black tide of metal and malice. They tore through the outer veils of the nebula. Their advance was relentless, unstoppable. The sky of the Light City darkened. The radiant glow of their world was overshadowed by the presence of the enemy. An alarm echoed through the city. Not a sound, but a psychic cry of warning. The siege of radiance had begun. The Accord met them in the void above the planet. A fleet of light ships shimmered into existence. They engaged the swarm's vanguard. Beams of pure energy lanced out. They struck the machine ships. But the swarm was prepared. Their hulls were coated in an energy-dampening material. The Accord's attacks were less effective than before. The machine ships returned fire. Plasma cannons and kinetic slugs tore through the ranks of the light ships. The battle was brutal, a silent, deadly ballet in the cold of space. The Venture joined the fray. Your ship was a steel predator among glowing ghosts. Its railguns fired massive projectiles. They punched through the swarm's defenses. Your missile pods launched swarms of their own, seeking out vulnerable targets. Your crew fought with a cold, focused fury. They were defending not just an alien world, but a world of their own lost kin. Anya flew the ship with a dancer's grace, weaving through explosions and enemy fire. Ren called out targets, exploiting every weakness he could find in the swarm's formations. You watched the battle from the command center. Your time had not yet come. The plan was to let the swarm commit to their attack, to draw them in close. Then you would launch. You would pilot the key through the heart of their fleet. Your target was their command ship, a massive vessel that sat at the center of their formation. It coordinated their attack. It was the brain of the machine beast. If you could disable it, the swarm would fall into disarray. The Accord and the Venture could then pick them apart. The fighting intensified. The swarm pushed forward. Their numbers were overwhelming. The Accord's fleet was being forced back. The Venture took heavy damage. Its shields were failing. Its hull was breached in several sections. But it held its ground, a stubborn bastion of steel and fire. The Elder One sent you a message. His voice was calm, but you could feel the strain. It is time, Commander. The path is as clear as we can make it. This was your moment, the culmination of your journey, of your training, of your purpose. You walked to the chamber of the key. Your crew gave you nods of support. Their faces were grim but resolute. You stepped into the obsidian sphere. The portal closed behind you. The interface needles connected to your suit. The cockpit, which was just a comfortable chair in a black void, came to life. The blackness outside the ship became a perfect 360-degree view of the battle. You felt the ship's power surge through you. You were no longer just a captain. You were the ancestors' key. You were humanity's answer to the darkness. You launched. The key shot out from the city, a black streak against the glowing sky. You moved at a speed that defied physics. The battle unfolded around you in slow motion. Explosions bloomed like silent flowers. Energy beams crisscrossed the void. You weaved through the chaos. The swarm ships were large and clumsy compared to you. They tried to track you. But you were too fast, too agile. It was like trying to catch a shadow. You were a ghost in their machine. Your sole focus was the command ship. It loomed in the distance, a mechanical mountain of a vessel. The journey was a blur of high-speed maneuvers. You dodged plasma bolts. You phased through the wreckage of destroyed ships. The swarm's fighters swarmed around you, small, agile drones. They fired a storm of projectiles at you. But the key's shields held. You felt the impacts as dull thuds. The ship's automated defenses shot back. Tiny lasers that picked the drones off one by one. You were a single, focused point of intention in a storm of chaos. The pressure was immense. One mistake, one moment of hesitation, and it would all be over. You couldn't help but think that this was probably the most stressful driving test in history. You pushed closer to the mechanical heart of the enemy. The command ship grew larger in your view. It was a fortress, bristling with weapons. It sensed the threat you posed. It directed all of its firepower at you. A wall of plasma and laser fire erupted from its hull. There was no way to dodge it. You did the only thing you could. You phased. The ship became intangible. You passed through the storm of energy without a scratch. The sensation was disorienting, like becoming a ghost for a few seconds. You rematerialized on the other side, right in front of the command ship's bridge. You could see the central processing core, a glowing red orb deep within the ship's structure. That was your target. You armed the resonant wave. The key began to hum with immense power. The energy built up within the sphere. You could feel it tingling through your entire body. The command ship tried to move, to bring its point defenses to bear. But it was too late. You had them. You took a deep breath. You thought of the Odyssey, of the Luminous Accord, of your crew on the venture, of all the lives hanging in the balance. Then you unleashed the weapon. A wave of pure, white energy erupted from the key. It was not an explosion. It was a silent, perfect pulse. It struck the command ship. It passed through its hull without leaving a mark. But inside, it wreaked havoc. It shattered the network that connected the swarm. The command ship's red core flickered. Then it went dark. The effect was instantaneous. Across the entire battlefield, the swarm ships went dead. They stopped firing. Their engines went cold. They drifted aimlessly. Their unity was broken. They were no longer an army, just a collection of mindless machines. The Accord and the Venture did not hesitate. They began to dismantle the disabled fleet. The battle turned into a salvage operation. But your fight was not over. The resonant wave had come at a great cost. The energy required to fire it had been drawn from the key itself. The obsidian sphere began to fracture. Cracks of light appeared on its surface. The ship was consuming itself. A warning light flashed in your cockpit. A calm, automated voice spoke. Core breach imminent. Evacuation is recommended. A master of understatement, that computer. You tried to turn back, to pilot the dying ship away from the battle. But the controls were unresponsive. The key had given its all. It had fulfilled its ancient purpose. And now, its time was over. The Elder One's voice filled your mind. It was filled with sorrow and immense gratitude. You have saved us, Commander. Your sacrifice will never be forgotten. You realized then that there was no escape. The price of freedom was your own life. You closed your eyes. You accepted your fate. You had completed your mission. That was all that mattered. Then, you felt a jolt. The Venture appeared alongside you, battered and scarred, but still flying. Its docking clamps latched onto the fracturing key. It was pulling you away. Anya's voice came over the comm. "Not leaving you behind, Commander. Not today." Her voice was strained but determined. Your crew was not going to let you die. They were pulling you out of the fire, risking their own lives to save yours. The Venture's engines strained. It was a desperate race against time. The key was coming apart. The core breach was seconds away. They pulled you clear of the blast radius. Just as the final warning sounded, the Ancestor's key erupted in a silent, brilliant flash of light. It was not a violent explosion. It was a peaceful release of energy. The ancient weapon was gone, consumed in its own final act of salvation. The swarm was shattered, its threat neutralized. The battle was won, but the victory felt hollow. You had lost the one thing that had guaranteed their safety. The price of freedom had been high. In the aftermath, a new dawn broke over the world of light. The darkness of the swarm was gone, replaced by the soft, radiant glow of their home. You were celebrated as a hero, a savior of two peoples. The Luminous Accord held a great celebration in your honor. Their city shimmered with joyous light. They showed you their deepest gratitude. They offered you a place among them, a chance to stay, to share in their peaceful existence. It was a tempting offer, a life without conflict, without war, a life of tranquility and knowledge. But you were a child of the physical world. Your home was among the stars, on the bridge of a starship. Your crew needed you, and humanity needed to know what you had found. The lost colony of the Odyssey had not just survived. It had triumphed. It had become something beautiful and new. You made your choice. You would return. You would carry the story of the Accord back to Earth. You would be the bridge between two worlds, the two branches of the human family, separated by time, would be reunited at last. The repairs to the Venture took weeks. The Accord helped. Their mastery of energy and matter made the work go quickly. They reinforced the ship's hull. They upgraded its systems. The Venture was stronger than ever before, a symbol of the new alliance. The day of your departure was a day of celebration and sad farewells. The Elder One met you one last time. "You carry our story with you, Commander," he said. "Tell them we have not forgotten who we are, or where we came from." You stood on the bridge of the Venture. You looked out at the glowing world of the Accord. It was a beacon of hope in the vast darkness of space, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. You gave the command, "Take us home." The Venture rose from the city of light. It passed through the veils of the nebula. It set a course for the familiar stars of home. Your journey was over. But a new era was just beginning. An era of reunion, of cooperation. Your courage had not just saved a world. It had forged a new future for all of humanity. And you were the one who would lead them into it.